Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Benefits of Bridging Customer and Field Service, Creating a True 360-Degree View of the Customer, brought to you by the Technology Services Industry Association and sponsored by ServiceMax. My name is Stacy Randolph and I'm your moderator for today. Audio is routed through your speakers, so if you encounter any audio quality or technical issues, let us know via the questions panel. You may also access full screen view via the toggle button that's located at the top right area of the console. We also encourage you to ask questions today. You may do so at any time via the questions panel. If we don't get to your question today, we will definitely follow up with you via email. And finally, a link to the recorded version of the webinar and access to download the PDF of the presentation will be sent out in the next 24 hours, so you also want to be on the lookout for that as well. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate when you take time out of what I know are some very busy schedules to join us for our live events. So today, our presenters are John Ragsdale, and John is TSIA's Vice President of Technology and Social Research. And then we also have Susan Tonkin, who is the Product Marketing Manager from ServiceMax. We are in a 30-minute window, and we do have a lot to cover, so I want to go ahead and get us started by turning things over to our first presenter. John, over to you.
Thank you, Stacy. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We have an interesting topic today. I think most of you know that I started at one of the early CRM vendors, Clarify, back in the 90s. And something that CRM really invented for the marketplace is this concept of a 360-degree view. And today we're going to talk about the promise of the 360 view, why some companies are running into so many challenges creating that view, and how some of those challenges are starting to go away because of the cloud and making it easier to tie disparate systems together. So let me open here with a picture of, in the perfect world, what CRM means. And this is a diagram that starts at the very top with all the multiple customer channels, the way they interact with us across the web, mobile, phone, and even social, the various self-service applications that customers have that touch the enterprise, whether that's a service, self-service, the customer community, or even an e-commerce application. And the next layer down is the all-important customer information model. So this is the database of all the customer data from birth to everything they ever purchase or buy from you or consider buying you, so the entire lifetime of the customer. And then each of the front office applications, the applications that touch the customer, are hopefully tied in to this customer information model, covering everything from marketing and sales through to call center, technical support, field service operations, contract management, even parts and logistics. And then, of course, using various enterprise integration tools, we're able to plug all of these systems and data into other applications across the enterprise, whether it's knowledge management, financials, or your ERP systems, etc. But the piece we're talking today is about this customer information model that's really at the center of all your technology that touches or involves the customer. And in the perfect world, we've got this single customer information model, so no matter who touches that customer across your enterprise, they're seeing the same information, consistent information, and very complete information. But of course, reality is a little bit different from the perfect world. And I have here some survey results from our members asking how many customer information models or customer masters exist at your company. And the problem, of course, is that most high-tech companies have grown through merger and acquisition. And while your company may have a single database for customer data, every time you buy a company, you're bringing in their systems of record, and unfortunately, those seem not to be migrated over very often or very quickly. You can see here that 19% of companies say that they do have one customer information model, though I can tell you that those are mostly pretty small companies. 44% have between 2 and 5 customer databases, and 37%, more than a third, say they have more than 5. So, you know, it's a lot of challenges to your frontline workers when they're having to navigate multiple systems. It means that Sometimes they may not be using the most correct information regarding a customer, and that can get you in a lot of trouble, as we're going to talk about. So we're talking today specifically about bridging this customer information model in your CRM system with your field service operations. And I know that companies tend to buy best-of-breed tools, and sometimes the integration falls to phase 2, and phase 2 never happens. But what we see is that a lot of companies have implemented some interesting field service tools, but without benefit of all that's going on in the CRM system or the customer master, we end up making some bad decisions and ultimately costing the enterprise a lot more money. So on the left here, I have the basic field service cycle starting with scheduling and dispatch. And every step of this process really requires a look at that total 360 view of the customer to make the best decisions, to enable the best processes. So some examples of that, even scheduling. You know, you can't even schedule a field tech to go to a site if you don't know what the service level agreement is that they've paid for. Is it a 2-hour response time? Is it a 4-hour response time? What is the commitment to the customer? On the dispatch side, before you know what tech to send out, it would be helpful to see who's gone out in the past, do they have a preferred technician, etc. Diagnostics and repair. What has the call center done? What troubleshooting has already taken place? That's really helpful. Getting through all the way to travel and expenses. You know, a lot of times we have to charge customers different things depending on their contract. They may be on an expired contract and it's a pay-as-you-go and they're paying parts and labor. It could be 100% included under a warranty. It could be that they're the service fees are covered, but the parts are not. So again, if we don't have visibility into all of that customer data, we're never going to make the right decisions on the field service side. So over the years, integrating field service into CRM has not always been an easy task. As a lot of you know, the old on-premise CRM systems were incredibly sophisticated. They were also incredibly complex, making it very difficult sometimes to tie systems together and keep them tied together through upgrades on either side. I've got the data here on the right side of the slide from my 2013 member technology survey, and it's very interesting to see how our members are quickly moving toward cloud solutions, and in particular, Salesforce.com is now used by almost half of TSIA members. Really amazing to see this shift. But one of the things about integration that's improving in the cloud world is when you look at a company like Salesforce, a lot of these cloud vendors are creating this ecosystem of partners with pre-integrated solutions. So in the past, we saw a lot of vendors generating what I called Barney partnerships. I like you, you like me. We issued a press release saying that we had an integration, but there was actually very little partnership or integration work going on. And in the cloud world, if you see someone part of their ecosystem, for example, Salesforce has their AppExchange, it means that the product is built on their infrastructure, it's been approved by their developers, and it's a very scalable integration. So it does remove a lot of the risk from that environment. Our guest speaker today actually is from a company that lives on the Salesforce AppExchange. So they'll be talking a little bit about how easy it is to download and install pre-integrated applications from AppExchange. So what's at stake here? You know, we usually talk about integration and its cost on productivity, and there certainly are impacts on productivity. And, you know, if people are having to find multiple systems to get the right information, it's going to take longer. It means that they don't always get the most accurate information. But today I wanted to more focus on really what's at stake, what can go wrong with these interactions with customers because of there's a missing piece in the integration story. So in my opinion, if you don't have that full 360 view of the customer, there are some real risks that are possible. First, because there's no visibility to products or the service history, first of all, you've got a real risk of just the the way that we get on site, how long it takes us to fix things, and whether we can fix it or not on the first occurrence. So if the tech doesn't even know what products are there, what version they're on, etc., it's very likely that you're going to get the wrong tech with the wrong skills or the missing parts on site. So that's a very real issue that happens every day with scheduling and dispatch. Also, if we have no visibility into what's been going on that account about this problem, again, when the field tech arrives on site, they may start reinventing the wheel and trying things that support has already gone through. And not only does this, again, impact how long they're on site and if they're able to fix the issue quickly, but there's nothing that frustrates a customer more than being dragged through a recovery procedure they've already tried. Somebody already replaced that part last week. Somebody already took them offline to do a dump of their data. So they get pretty aggravated because you don't know that a field tech last week or the support organization has already dragged them through these procedures. And I think the biggest risk from a TSIA perspective is the big hit on revenue that can be happening because we've got inaccurate entitlement information. So without that tie into CRM and the contract management system, it's very likely that we're giving away support for free, that they may have an expired contract and we're still sending a field tech out to fix it for no revenue. And the other piece is that we're not hitting the SLA. So maybe this customer is paid for a 2-hour response time instead of a 4-hour response time. And if we're not able to get the tech there that meets the time that they've specified and what their expectations are, not only are we going to have some impacts to CSAT and loyalty and repurchase, there may even be penalties in the contract for missing those response times. So the risk can be pretty high with this lack of integration. And I think not only with the cloud tools being easier to tie together, but the new integration tools that are able to keep systems in sync, we don't have that excuse that we used to have in the past that it was so hard and so expensive to create and maintain these integrations. So my challenge to you is we know about 1/3 of our field service members are shopping for new field service automation tools. I would recommend that you start with your CRM provider and the partners they have that come pre-integrated, and make sure that integration into CRM is a key piece of the phase 1 rollout of the project, and don't let that get pushed to phase 2, because as we know, very often phase 2 never happens. So that was short and sweet. I know I went very quickly, but you'll have access to all of these slides afterwards. And for now, I'd like to turn things over to our guest speaker today, Susan Tonkin, Product Marketing Manager from ServiceMax. Susan, take it away.
Great, thanks so much. So to segue into our portion, I wanted to bring up some customer service horror stories, and I know we all have them. Oftentimes when I tell people what I do, and they know that I'm in the field service realm, they're like, oh my gosh, let me tell you what happened with my cable company last week, or this guy that came out to fix my dishwasher, or whatever the situation was. And we all have these stories in our own lives where you call the call center, they had no clue about my service history. I expected this 4-hour response time, that's what I'm paying for, and they still haven't shown up. 3 different people made me answer the same question. That's one that my dad mentioned the other day. Is he called the newspaper company and they made him give his phone number about 4 times to 4 different people he talked to. So there's always these customer service horror stories that make it so hard to get things done that we want to get done, and it just makes everything so inefficient and really harms your brand when our customers don't have a good experience. And my little clip art here is from John's book, Lessons Unlearned on customer service. So definitely that's the feeling you get when you have one of these customer service horror stories. And a lot of it stems from sales, not talking to the call center, not talking to the people in the field, the people who were there face-to-face, the customer service or field technician, field engineer that you sent out. Those people all need to be in sync. And so having that 360-degree view is really critical. And we think in field service that face-to-face quality interaction is more important than in almost any other facet of your business. You have to have this work flawlessly, or it can make or break your company's, your customer strategy within your company. There's only so much you can do behind the computer screen. Field service technicians are out there face-to-face with your customers. So it's a huge opportunity to make a fabulous impression on your customer, but it's also a huge risk. If the guy shows up not knowing what to do, without the right part, without the ability to look up the information he needs while he's there on site and has to come back at a later day or misses the window, those are huge problems for your customer delight and your customer strategy. So it's a great opportunity, but it's also a huge risk. And there's no place in your business where having that 360 view is more important in our experience. And so a lot of our customers are, when they're doing field service, it's incredibly important for their techs to be connected to the rest of the organization. We've even heard of some techs tracking competitive solutions in customer sites. They're going to visit a hospital to work on the ultrasound machine, but they want to see what other systems are there in place that they might be able to provide service on. Having the techs be able to keep accurate and up-to-date customer data for the sales team. So, hey, I was on site and they said Joe no longer works here. Hey, sales team, did you know about that? This 360 view is huge to help your company stay on top of what's going on with customers, not have to ask the customer the same questions multiple times. And this face-to-face interaction is just priceless. So I have kind of 4 tips to ensure that when you're looking at field service and what you want to do to automate and improve field service in your organization, that you're kind of thinking of these things as you start to look at the vendor landscape and the systems landscape out there. So my first piece of advice is to understand in today's market, pretty much any system can be integrated. All the leading players have fantastic APIs and service-oriented architecture. So for the most part, if you're dealing with a modern software, especially software as a service vendor, these systems can work together and can talk to each other. So John gave the great advice of looking at what you have in place already, but if you want to go the best of breed route, there are fantastic solutions out there, and you can get any solution to talk to each other. So as John mentioned earlier, we're on the Salesforce.com platform. So we've done a lot of the work there for you, and it's a very seamless solution. But if you're not on the Salesforce.com platform, you can also integrate ServiceMax with whatever your CRM system is of choice. So there's a lot of flexibility out there for you, and pretty much any systems you can get them to talk to each other with some integration. But my second tip is that to check which vendors regularly work with your CRM vendor, have a pre-built integration, have an app store to take a look at what solutions might be out there for you. It always behooves you to make sure that you take a look at who you have in place and how they can work together, and research which vendors regularly work with your CRM vendor, because there are probably a lot of great options for you there. Although I would caution not to take it at face value that, for example, your ERP vendor, if they have field service, you might take it with a grain of salt how integrated the field service is to the rest of the stack. So is there a seamless view for a technician with sales, with customer service across the stack? So even if you're buying things from all one vendor, definitely get some demos and take a look at how those pieces work together. And then my third tip is understanding that integration is not the same thing as in the same system. We tend to talk about it as native because we are native to the Force.com platform that Salesforce is on. And you can get a very seamless process from that. Integration is going to be a little different. There are going to be touch points that you pick and choose, and by and large, your customer service people and sales people will be using a different system than the field service system if you're doing integration. So there's going to be separate logins, separate reporting, but you can still get a pretty good 360-degree view by sending some information back and forth. But you're going to get a much more seamless view from what we call a native solution. And then my last tip is to understand how much of the system you're evaluating is native and or integrated to the CRM platform that either you're using or you're interested in taking a look at. Many times it's only a small piece of functionality. So we're on the Salesforce AppExchange. There are other field service players on the Salesforce AppExchange as well. We are the only ones that are 100% native. Our entire stack is available within the platform, and there is no integration. So you do get things like seamless reporting. You do have one system login, not multiple. Administration is all done in the same place, and you can reuse the administrators you have for the Salesforce system for ServiceMax as well. So there's a lot of advantages to that native platform. So here's a screenshot of the Salesforce AppExchange. If you're not familiar with the AppExchange concept or app stores, it's really like Yelp or TripAdvisor, but for applications. So you can download things just like you would go to your Apple App Store and get a new game for your phone and use them right away. Or for some of the more complex apps, you can get a trial and understand how the functionality is going to work for you. So it's a great tool to be able to go out and look for what's on this particular platform, what has been more widely deployed. So a great way to look at that is to look for reviews and ratings. There are over 20, and our average score is 4.5 stars on the AppExchange. So we've got a bunch of our customers who've gone out and sung our praises on the AppExchange. But it's a red flag sometimes to look at some of the options that are out there and realize that they don't have any reviews or they don't have any comments from real users of the system. So it's a great tool, just like if you're booking a restaurant and you see, wow, that place sounds interesting, but no one's really reviewed them. There's like 3 reviews, and I think it's the guy's brother. Yet this other review of the restaurant down the street has lots of different people using that, and there's lots of great reviews. So definitely a great tool to be able to narrow down your list. I wanted to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of integration. Definitely a lot of pros with integration. As we talked about earlier, there are really endless options. You can use best-of-breed solutions, you can get them to talk to each other, and you can use any system that meets your requirements and is right for your business. And it can be very real-time and sophisticated as long as you have the budget to make that happen. So you have to budget a little bit for integration, but you can have lots of options and very minimal disruption. So if you have legacy apps that it's really going to be hard to rip and replace, that's fine. You can get some integration help from a third-party vendor. You can do it yourself, and you can get the systems to talk together, and you have lots of flexibility. Some of the cons of integration are that it can be pretty expensive to build them and maintain them. Anytime you go through a major upgrade of one of the systems involved, you do have to look at it again and make sure that it doesn't break your integration. And there will still be some potential for gaps, some places where it's not as seamless as you would hope it would be. So there are definitely some, you get great flexibility with integration, but there are some great reasons, mostly around time to value, getting up and running, get 90% of the way there at 25% of the cost. Native is definitely the way to do that and can provide a lot of advantages over integration if you want to get up and running quickly, and it doesn't have to be 100% perfect right from the start, and you can iterate from there. So just a few of the pros and cons to think about. So my last couple slides, and I'll go through them very quickly so that we have a few minutes for questions. ServiceMax is a field service provider, really providing flawless field service end-to-end is our mission. We're the only complete field service solution delivered in the cloud. Mobile is built in. We have a really broad array of capabilities across field service, so not just scheduling the technician, but managing contracts and parts, social capabilities, the customer and partner portal, so lots of great field service capabilities on a very modern cloud architecture so that you can work with the rest of the CRM and the ERP systems that are in your stack. As mentioned earlier, we're built on the Force.com platform. We can plug right into Service Cloud, and in your organization, it's an incredibly seamless view. So I have a screenshot in a moment to show you that the accounts and contacts from Salesforce are right there as part of the process. It looks and interacts just like Salesforce. If your users within your organization are used to using Salesforce, it'll fit right in to your stack. And it's just a very, very seamless view. We've got a number of customers around the world, more than 200 customers. Big brand names like GE and Coca-Cola Enterprises and Pitney Bowes, but also mid-sized customers as well. So definitely a proven solution in field service. And our customers who get this right see tremendous benefits. So we've got a little quote from one of our customers down on the bottom, and I'll probably start with there. This particular customer spent 7 years trying to get Siebel to work right for them in the field. You know, great for CRM or for tracking sales, but really had a hard time in field service and getting everything in its 360-degree view. And they spent a lot of time and effort there and never really got it to work. And very quickly, they were up and running with ServiceMax. They were getting unbelievable reporting and metrics to report on their business. And I've got some metrics here that are across our customer base. So we surveyed some customers to assess the true impact of ServiceMax. And, you know, huge productivity increases, 14% service revenue increase, you know, dropping field service costs, dropping average time to repair, just great benefits from the seamless view across field and customer service that we're able to deliver. And lastly, and I'll open it up for questions in just a moment, but just a few reminders of our differentiators: fully native on the Force.com platform, proven. Check out our reviews and references on AppExchange. We've got a little web link down in the corner to AppExchange if you want to take a look at it. A broad solution end-to-end, and really quick time to value versus having to integrate multiple systems in the back end. So some great advantages of working with ServiceMax. With that, I will open it up for questions. Stacy, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan, and thanks to you, John, as well, for some really great information on our presentation today. So we do have a few questions in queue, and John, I want to start with you. We have someone that says that, you know, they've grown through acquisitions, right, and they have multiple customer databases. How do they begin consolidating them?
Well, this is a question I get pretty frequently, and I kind of think the data integration piece is almost easier than the process piece. You know, batch loading the records from one system and loading them into the other is not that difficult a process. The challenge is that each separate database or CRM system is going to have different custom fields, different price books, different contract schedules. It can get pretty complicated. So you have to do an audit on each system to understand what those fields are, what people are using for them. Do we need to bring them over? Do they have to, you know, be continued? And you've got to do a lot of training because people, you know, it's really difficult to pull people off a system they've been using and are comfortable with for something that they haven't. So I would say, you know, bring in a consultant to do the data migration, but your managers are going to have to spend a lot of time hand-holding and marketing the new solution to get the folks to use it and use it comfortably. So usually people just concentrate on the data migration side, and it's the lack of adoption that ends up biting you later down the road.
Great, thanks, John. Susan, the next question I have is for you. You know, of course, you talked about Salesforce.com and the fact that ServiceMax is so fully integrated with it. But do you have to use Salesforce.com to use ServiceMax?
You don't. We definitely have customers who have different CRMs on the back end. So we have customers who are using Siebel or using Oracle or SAP, and you know, those integration points are pretty easy to pass data back and forth. You can pull in your accounts and contacts and things like that and have it work with ServiceMax as well. So it's the most seamless view if you're using Salesforce on the back end, and we definitely recommend that, but don't let that prevent you from taking a look at you know, your field service options, and we're definitely best of breed in field service and can work on the back end with other CRM providers as well.
Great. Thanks, Susan. I'm going to try to throw in one last question here before we get to our allotted window. Can you talk about whether or not you can integrate to accounting systems?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. for billing in particular, once a work order is closed, the customer signed off on how much they're going to pay for the service that was provided. We integrate all the time with companies' back office accounting systems. And oftentimes when working with a Salesforce customer, that's already been done for us. A lot of times they've already integrated to their back office ERP out of Salesforce, and we just piggyback on top of that. So it may not even cost you, any extra time or effort to be able to pull in the ServiceMax link there as well. So definitely.
Great. Thanks so much, Susan. So we are in our 30-minute window, and I definitely want to thank our presenters, John Ragsdale and Susan Tonkin from ServiceMax. We do still have some questions in queue, so I definitely want to tell the folks that asked to be rest assured that we will follow up with you, and we'll make sure that your questions do get answered. And then just a quick reminder that a link to the recorded version of the webinar and also access to download the PDF of the presentation